Tube, and it's time to talk about Star Wars Visions Season 2. Full spoilers ahead. Just going to be briefly talking about each of the episodes, maybe more depth in some than the others. See how it goes. I'm here with Gary, who's also seen the season. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing really well.
Great. Well, I would like to first of all say that I thought this season was far better than last season. It was still
Agree.
very Jedi and Sith heavy, but I think the variety of animation styles was a better thing. Initially, I thought having Japanese anime, manga, and all of that would be the right way to go with the previous season, but there was kind of a sameness to them all. But having a worldwide animation contingent, including people from Japan as well, made the variety of different animation styles so joyful. Like some of the ways the animation was performed, like was displayed to us, was so beautiful. Like I was in awe in some of the techniques that were used. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Um, just finished watching the season today. I know Boss Man just finished it a couple of days ago. What's your thoughts, Boss Man, on the season as a whole before we break down some episodes?
I agree with you. I thought this was a much stronger season. And I think it's because I agree with what you were just saying there, that the previous season, just because it kind of was like, not the same, but kind of like similar art styles, they kind of blended together a bit. Whereas here, they were all unique. Like, there was even stuff that was like quite, I thought, experimental. Like some of it was like digital, some of it was like kind of like neo art styles and stuff like that. I'm plus the writing in this seemed a lot stronger. The fact that most of the stuff was with Jedi, it wasn't too bad because I thought some of the Jedi stories were very strong. But I did like that it kind of delved more into the lore and it wasn't all Jedi stuff. Like actually, I thought the strongest stuff was the non-Jedi stuff, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I thought overall a really really good series. I thought it's a bit like if you remember, I think that was it Love Death and Robots season two
Yeah, yeah.
was really rubbish, and then three was really good. Well, I thought this was the same. I thought season one was really not as good as it could have been. I thought this season really redeemed it.
I have to be honest with you. I haven't seen season three of Death and Robots. I've seen one and two. I
You
will
should
have to
watch it.
jump on that, but because I did love Death and Robots. I thought it was phenomenal, especially season one. Absolutely fantastic storytelling in short bites, which is what we got here with Visions. I what I also like was, as I mentioned, like not only the different forms of animation, but some of them weren't like necessarily paintings; they were stop motion. We got
Hmm.
the Aardman stuff,
Yeah.
which was really nice to see, and some of them felt like a blend of both. Like the very last one, I couldn't tell if I was watching stop motion or if I was watching um, an actual anime. Some
Mm.
sort of digital recreation that's supposed to look like stop motion. But nevertheless, it was really good. So I just to remind myself, I created a list. I'm just gonna pull up that list right now. So the first episode is called Sif, and this was a very Well, I'm gonna probably say very arty episode, pretty much throughout all of this. But we see a former Sith, by the looks of things, now living isolated on this planet, and she's an artist. She's got a
Mhm.
robotic arm, drawing, painting. She's got a droid that is kind of like her pet, and she ends up getting hunted down by a Sith with a couple of droids, Sith droids with him, and they have a back and forth. But initially, like this oil painting looking art style, it's just beautiful to look at. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's a bit jarring at first, but then when I got used to it, I was like, actually, this is really cool. Like, I love the drawing of the main person. I love the drawing of that droid. With the four little like arms it had. I love the drawing of the Sith Master and the fact that he was there for her and stuff like that. Because that's one thing that we haven't really seen in Star Wars Universe is what happens if, because we see what happens when a Jedi turns Sith and what they become, but we've never seen it the other way around. Like what happens when a Sith decides to leave
Well,
their master.
they don't turn to Force ghosts. I do know that I've looked into the lore. They're about living, not about about dying. If you know what I mean.
Mhm.
That's why people like Darth Plagueis look to extend life, and so did Palpatine to a degree. Which is why they did cloning and stuff like that. It was always about living a lot longer. Killing was dying and all of that sort of stuff was not really on the menu for them. It was about the survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
but I thought that, I agree with you as well. I thought it was a really well done episode because it took me a little bit to get used to the art style. But after I did, I thought this is really well done, and I like the story. Like I like the story of this former Sith, trying to carve her way on to be more of a good person, more of like an artistic person. And I thought, hello, I thought that was great.
Let me find out who this Facebook user is before we continue. And that is Dixie himself. Welcome
Dixie.
to the stream, Dixie. So the next episode, episode 2, was Screecher Reach, which was basically about some of these young kids,
Irish kids.
who well, yeah, I mean they got Irish accents, but yeah, but they're based in this. I don't know if they're slaves or not, but they escape from this location on speeders, and they go to this mountain, I believe, where apparently there's a legend of something in there, and all of that. They know about it. The screaming ghost, but what we end up discovering that it just happens to be a Sith who's hiding out in there. We believe hiding out in there. We could tell it was a Sith because they had a red lightsaber, so you could kind of tell that they were using maybe Force powers in some aspects to project themselves as some sort of monster. And when the kid was left in there, this one particular kid, I couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl, but they managed to stop all their friends. This person had managed to stop their friends from dying and stayed behind. And when trying to escape, they couldn't, and they ended up using the Force because this person ended up having Force powers. It's amazing how many times that came into play. People ending up having Force powers. To stop this entity, and they took their lightsaber, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, he took the Sith lightsaber and escaped, and I think the Sith died in the mountain.
Yeah,
and that was pretty much it, I believe. Am I correct?
Yes.
I saw this episode about 4 days ago, so I'm trying to remember. So.
Well, I really like this because it goes off of like Irish lore of like the banshee and stuff like that, like an old, ghostly woman, and I kind of I like the fact and they're kind of like bringing off that lore, so like it makes sense that you all had Irish accent. And I said I thought this episode was fine. I didn't think it was exceptional, but I thought it was fine. For what it was trying to do, I thought the strongest aspect was the relationship between the kids. Because I thought the relationship was really strong. It's just like when the end happens and she goes off with whoever her master is, it kind of like ruined the whole point of the things that they've been kind of hinted at through the rest of the thing. But that's just my problem with it. It may not be yours.
Yeah, I just thought it was just okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I didn't dislike. I mean, I have to admit when I saw the creature and I saw it with the lightsaber, I thought this is clever. I genuinely appreciated the twist and the twist of it. Anyway, on to the next episode, if I can find it. 1 second. Here we go. Next episode in the Stars. Now this was stop motion animation, I believe. This was about two sisters. They're on this planet which has been taken over by the Empire. The Empire has taken all the resources from this planet and poisoned everything else. These sisters had a mother who was a strong fighter, but she ended up dying in the Empire's hands. We saw animation with the paint, which was pretty cool. But they need water to survive. The elder sister decides to do a raid on the Imperial base to steal water.
I thought the art style on this was amazing. I thought this was like the strongest art style so far, and I really liked that we had some like different kind of alien. Well, these systems are different kind of species than we see before. So
well, this episode, maybe the previous episode as well to a degree, but this episode kind of started a string of annoying kids episodes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of annoying little fucking brats who won't shut the fuck up and stay back and listen to their elders. And we got a lot of that. And now, don't get me wrong, I was an annoying little brat who didn't shut the fuck up and listen to my elders. So, but nevertheless, now I'm the elder. This sort of shit pisses me off. It pisses me off big time. But yeah, fair enough. And I did like the fact that this young girl, she thought she had the Force, but the Force ended up being with her sister, who saved her life just as the Empire was coming down on them, and then they managed to cause enough destruction to destroy the Empire's base and flood their land again, so the water could be back where it belongs, so to speak.
Yes, so there's obvious, what's the word, flashbacks to colonial, like sort of rule where they would starve particular indigenous tribes to try and like out to let them die out, while the colonialists would have it and stuff. So I thought that was a really strong aspect, and I like the fact. But I agree with you about the annoying kid. She was really annoying because she was told about 3 or 4 times by her big sister, "Stay here and I'm going to go and do it on my own." And she would have got out too clean if it wasn't for Philly. The kid decided that she was not going to listen. Like ridiculous.
Once again, annoying kids. They play a big part in this show. So we now get to the argument episode, which is probably the comedy episode, which was very much needed by this, because we're in the middle of the run now, and it's "I Am Your Mother," which is obviously a play on "I Am Your Father." Yeah, and the pilot called Annie as well, funny enough, who is a Twi'lek.
Yeah,
Twi'lek. So it's a Twi'lek family, and she's going to the races. She gets bullied by some other girls and stuff. The mum's very dotting and interfering, and before you know it, she's got herself and her daughter involved in this race, because it's a family race, and there's all different types of families there and stuff. It's very good comical moments.
I thought this was one of the strongest episodes because sorry,
I can't stop yawning. I do apologize. Go on.
No, I thought this was one of the strongest episodes because not only do we find out that the mother is like really like proud of her daughter, that despite what her daughter thinks of her, she's a much stronger person, and there's like, I love the fact that like throughout this episode, that her mother is embarrassing, and she's embarrassing her and where they live and the house they live in, but the house is much more sturdy than a lot of the other ships they have to compete against, and like there's people who turn their nose up about it, and it's just like. I like that. I love the like this is like a true underdog story. These two people who doesn't really care for where she comes from, kind of embracing that sort of like background. I really like that.
Yeah, we got a nice little cameo of Wedge Antilles as well.
Oh yeah,
and I like the fact that the mother also admitted that she was kind of a bit upset overhearing that her daughter didn't like being with her because she finds her embarrassing. But then she kind of accepts the fact that, yeah, I'm your mother. I'm supposed to be embarrassing. Yeah, really good stuff. It was really good just to see some Aardman animation again as well. Like, it's been a long time since Wallace and Gromit. And some of the other movies they've made recently have not been stop motion. It's been CGI or special effects, whatever the term is, to look like stop motion animation. And yeah, in the day, stop motion is just far superior.
Great.
All right, so the next one, Journey into the Dark Head. This was a really, really cool episode.
Okay.
This was the one about this girl who initially sees like visions in stones.
What it is that the class of people she belongs to like they record they see these visions in stones and they record them for all time. So basically they're like clairvoyants of this particular thing, and they see things in stones, like, but they can't interfere on either side. They just need to record them, and I really like that aspect that there is a true neutral, was an observer in this Star Wars universe. I really like.
Yep. And but this one particular girl, she knows things are getting worse. The Sith are coming down, and obviously this is during the period of the Empire, I believe. No, is it? I'm not sure actually.
I think it's just before the Empire, from what I'm gathering of the thing.
Well, but then it might be Old Republic era because we do get a Sith Council moment, and then we follow this young Jedi for a bit who survived an encounter with a Sith Lord who killed her master and killed various other people, but only kept him alive because he had hate in his heart, or anger, not hate, but anger, which means that he could be a possible Sith. Nevertheless, when we cut to present day, this particular girl, I forgot it was, I think it was a Jedi, believes that if they cut off the head of this Sith statue, that it could help them win the war against the Sith. The premise sounds a bit stupid, but we go back to that.
No, because she believes that this evil is basically manifesting evil into the universe. It is kind of a silly belief, but it's kind of like when you can understand, because the Force builds over itself. But I mean, there's good people who use the Force, there's bad people who use the Force. So there's always going to be around.
This episode had a lot in it with the little brief moments, and and I did like the encounter between the young Jedi sort of Padawan versus the Sith Lord who was desperate to take this guy under his wing, and you saw them battle and stuff, and then we saw them on this mountaintop with the Jedi and the Sith Lord heads and stuff like that. It was very beautifully done. Some really good moments, good action scenes. I did like this episode a lot. More for the emotion of it than the story, to tell you the truth. But yeah. All right, you ready to move on to the next episode?
Yeah, definitely.
Spy Dancer. This was an interesting episode. Initially, I wasn't too impressed with the animation style, but I then grew to appreciate it, and I kind of figured out what it was all about before it was revealed. I'm not sure if you were the same too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought this was magnificent, because I loved the art style, I loved the story, because I loved the fact that this woman doesn't really have any force powers per se, but has this sort of like natural sort of like dancing ability that she uses.
Yeah.
And I really loved that. I mean, I thought this was spectacular. I thought this was, along with probably one of the strongest episodes in the series.
Yeah, it was a very emotional episode with this woman who we have a flashback of her son being taken away, and she thinks she's got an opportunity to kill the man who took her son, but she ends up finding out that that person is not that man. But what we end up finding out, and I actually knew this. I knew this way earlier, is that this person was her son all along, and she knew that too. She figured it out very quickly, and I think in a way,
Mhm.
the way it was done, that it wasn't trying to tease us along, and not it wanted us to know this as well before it revealed it, in my opinion. And it was like the elegance of it was really good. The story, the emotions of it was really good. Seeing that imperial officer, you saw like he shaved off his horns off his head. He might have been there might have been Zabrak, I'm not sure, but he shaved off the horns off his head to look more human. Yeah, it was deep stuff. I did like it, and just he had the revelation as well, knowing that that was his mum. He
Mhm.
puts him in between the rock and the hard place too. It was good stuff. Yeah, I did like this episode.
Mhm.
So we're going on to the Represent Motherfuckers episode, Bandits of the Golok, episode 7. Um, this episode was so. This episode felt like a mix of like Indian culture and Middle Eastern culture.
Great.
Um, it was like there was elements of it which felt very Indian, like the train and a lot of the characters, but then you had that Middle Eastern element too, where not the train, but outside the train, but the terrains, the sand, the hijacking of the of the train on horses and stuff reminded me of those sort of films of like back in the day, like which escapes me, but of them of people like Arab guys on horses trying to catch a train and stuff like that, and then the villages and towns as well, which were very much a mix of Indian and Middle Eastern culture too. The accents, a lot of these guys, the actors, you could tell they used Indian, Middle Eastern actors too to voice the
Mhm.
characters. But once again, we got another annoying fucking kid, you
Mhm.
know, a very annoying kid. But also, like a lot of the people here, a lot of the youngsters here, force. This person has force powers too, and the art style in this episode was magnificent. By the
Agree.
way, absolutely magnificent art style. Like it was wow, blew me away. And the story was pretty cool. Seeing that like Sith Inquisitor, which was interesting. He was an Inquisitor, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do
that
agree with
was.
you. I do agree. It's good to see like not everyone who uses the force becomes a Jedi Knight. That there's some people who just use it for to help their society, which is something that you don't really see, and I really like that. I really like that aspect of that. This guy, the civic criticism is basically like, I think you're going to become a Jedi Knight, and the guy's going, I don't really give a shit about you twiddling your flaming, laser swords at each other. I just want to live in peace. And he's going, no, you're going to do this. It's like, no, I don't. It was a really interesting episode about like exploring like people's decisions to become a Jedi or not. That just because you're force sensitive doesn't mean that that is going to become your journey.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally. But unfortunately, for this, I think there was this guys in. They never really confirmed if they were brother and sister, but I assume they were.
I see the point.
But for the young girl, her journey was to be a Jedi because they meet up with that elderly lady who was a Jedi Knight, the elderly Indian woman who ended up killing the Sith Inquisitor. Um, and she took her away to a secret hideout, but he had to stay behind because it wasn't his journey. It was a journey she had to make. But she made sure she left something behind for him, which was the flute, which is a nice little touch. But yeah, beautiful art style, really cool, fascinating seeing in like Indian culture and Middle Eastern culture so heavily. In Middle Eastern culture, we kind of seen to a degree here and there in Star Wars because Tatooine is so heavily sand based and stuff like that. But Indian culture, like the way it was done here, like the sweets on the lollipops, they look like an Indian sweet dish called jalebi. I'm not sure if you've seen those.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
I
send you
have
a
I have
picture.
seen those. Yes.
Yeah, they reminded me of that instantly. Anyway, great episode. The next episode after this was quite a disturbing episode to a degree. called The Pit. Now, I have to be honest with you, I'm a bit torn on this episode because I don't think it's enlightening as it should be because of the world we live in today. Yeah, where you hear about how homeless people and are treated. I just almost find this episode too good to be true. But basically, the Empire get a bunch of slaves to dig a hole in the ground, and they find these kyber crystals and stuff like that, and then they end up building a city, not too far away from the hole in the ground. But once they've reached rock bottom, that's it. The Empire leaves them there. One kid manages to escape to get word to in the city that they're down there, but the Empire notices that kid and throws him back down there and kills him. But then the kid's sister ends up getting a mess. They all start chanting together, and the town folk hear them and they come down there to rescue them. Now, we've been hearing about homeless people being executed. We've been hearing about people thinking that homeless people should be executed, and then we've got people like Rishi Sunak bringing out laws against the homeless as well about nuisance begging and stuff like that. So totalitarian and fascist, it's disgusting.
Agreed.
So and as much as this episode felt very nice, seeing a bunch of people from what looked like a very rich town come down to help all these helpless homeless people, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how honest of a representation of the world that we live in today this presents. It made me think to myself, this would never happen. A lot of those people would love the fact that those people are in the hole. They would probably piss on them from the top of the hole if they could.
But I do think that Star Wars is kind of does have a very really good view of humanity, not just humanity, but of people that we wouldn't do that. And I think that it's kind of like Star Trek-esque in that sort of mindset of it, that it sees humans as being much better than they are. So I do agree with you that, but I thought it was a really good story. Probably one of the strongest stories that in this particular season, I think.
Yeah. And finally, we get our song. I think that's how you say it, or song.
I use song.
Which was that episode, which made me think to myself: is this animation or is this stop motion animation
Agreed.
or both?
It was seamless if it was both.
Yeah. I have to be maybe not the best way to end the saga. I would prefer this episode to be a bit more in the middle of the pack. But regardless, it was quite a simple episode of a young girl who has to stay quiet because her voice somehow activates the kyber crystals, the Sith kyber crystals. I don't know what to really make of this episode myself. I thought it was pretty average. It was nice and all of that, and it looked visually pretty cool. But the lore regarding Sith cyber crystals and stuff like that, it's a bit weird. I've seen Jedi use Sith fucking lightsabers in the past. It's I think more this was they kind of extended the lore here just for the sake of it and made more of it than they should have. But whatever.
Choice here. I mean, I would have personally like to sort of delved into different kinds. Although, as I said, like the one criticism I have of the series, if I have one, is that there's too much Jedi stuff. And I'm starting to sound like Cheeto to say that, but it's not that I hate Jedi stuff. I love it. It's just that it should be made special, and that we can delve into, I don't know, like Thorn or some other aspects, like everything else can be just as awesome as Jedi Knights, just as long as we give it enough time. Like, Andor was a great season, not just because it wasn't a Jedi stuff, but because we gave the kind of like Han Solo-esque, sort of like chaotic good hero, the light, and I think we've done that here.
I agree. I would have still what I really wanted out of this was a bit more, X-wing, TIE fighter type things.
I agree.
I wanted a bit more that we didn't, but it wasn't like season one, which was full on Sith and Jedi. I mean, we can look back at the season now, just go through the episodes. Like episode 4 was the first episode of the bunch, which didn't have any Sith or Jedi. That was I Am Your Mother. That was the Yardman episode. And then we had Spy Dancer, which also didn't have any Sith or Jedi either. And then the penultimate episode, The Pit, didn't have any Sith or Jedi as well. I think the girl, I mean, they had kyber crystals, and that girl, she might have been force sensitive, but that was at the very, very end, when she balanced the crystal on her hand. But overall, they did mix it up a tiny bit. I mean, there's 9 episodes. 1/3 of the episodes weren't Sith or Jedi episodes, which is a lot better than what they did last season. But now they need to give us stuff to do with, like, I want to see episodes about smugglers. You know what I mean? I want to see, I want to see episodes of, maybe them stuck on like some people stuck on a planet and have to escape a monster. What I'd love to
see is the stuff we've never seen in Star Wars before. So maybe like people who aren't good guys, but kind of like do shady stuff, like maybe like slavers who like use like the Empire's kind of like rather shoddy past of human slave trade to kind of look the other way, like how do they live with themselves, like what kind of lifestyle do they have, and like something like that, or something like is there like other evil like sort of like people like who just like mobsters or like Jabba the Hutt or something like that.
Yeah, like kind of. I want to see more of the underworld. I agree with you there. I would love to see 1313 on Coruscant, and I want to see more smuggler runs and stuff like that. And I want to see a few more dog fights as well in space, animated one, just like the one we saw not too long ago. So I'm hoping they will give us some of that in season 3, and maybe just 1 or 2 episodes on Jedi and Sith. If they could do that, and get away from everyone being force sensitive and shit like that, I would very much appreciate that. But they really have to start thinking outside the box a little bit now. There's a massive world, but they somehow got this bit of Stockholm syndrome, and they can't get out of the Jedi Sith sort of conundrum.
Yeah, bubble. I mean, I understand. Like, if you're a Star Wars fan, one of the things you love about it is the sword fights. But the thing is, what they should do is whoever's in charge of this particular, in charge of vision, to say, right, you get two of you get a Sith or Jedi story. The rest of you come up with something unique. And then you'll put the cat amongst the pigeons, because then people will have to look into the lore and do more stuff like that's the old Republic stuff, or because I mean there's sorts of stuff in the old Republic stuff that they could delve into that has nothing to do with Jedi. That's to do with like the security arm of the old Republic that used to like go around basically being good guys, but kind of being like the police forms that is today. There's criticism that you could have from that. What the underworld was like in that particular time. They could delve into that sort of lore.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just so frustrating. There is so much good stuff out there they could depict in animated form, but they just choose not to. It's just annoying.
Well, Andor was a great example that you could focus on the rebels without having a single Jedi in there.
Yeah.
As well, and maybe we can focus more on the villains. I'm not talking about just the Sith, but maybe more of the Imperials. Maybe there could be some sort of Romeo Juliet story of an Imperial officer and a rebel and a rebel leader or something like that. There's so many things, but once again, then they have to still try and squeeze it within 20 minutes because the episodes are not longer than 20 minutes. And I will give them credit. Sometimes I think to myself, wow, they put a lot in these episodes to make it only 20 minutes long. And I give them credit to pack it out as much as they have. Anyway, shall we give the season as a whole? I'm not going to review each episode. I think that.
No, I think that's going to take us too long. So I reckon we should give the season. So out of 10, I'll give the entire season I can't remember what I give Visions, to be honest with you. I'm going to give this a good 7, because I thought this was really a good improvement over the last season. I thought it was really well done. The reason I'm giving it a 7 is because I want them to do other stories than Jedi stuff. And I know I'm sounding like Cheeto, but it's because, look, there's nothing wrong with Jedi stuff. There's nothing wrong with Force sensitive people. It's just too much. And it doesn't special anymore. The thing is, you could give us Thorn, you could give us, like, you could give us, like, maybe like stories of the Old Republic. You've got so much more to take from. Why not show it us? Right. That's just my.
Well, I want to give this an 8, but something is stopping me.
Yes.
And I can't, and so for that reason, I'm going to give it a 7 as well. And 7 is above average. I thought everything was almost perfect. Didn't like the final episode that much. But majority of the episode I did like. I wish it wasn't, as you said, so heavily Sith and Jedi based. And those are the elements that stop me from giving it higher marks.
Me too.
But definitely, far better than last season. Much better. And usually, with shows, it's like this, boss man. First time, like season 1, season 2, season 1 could be absolutely superior. Like, this is breathtaking stuff, and the seasons that come after that, I find it very hard to replicate the success of the first season. Or sometimes the first season doesn't tend to be the best season because the show is still finding its feet. So by the time they make another season, in this case season 2, the show's found its feet, and it ends up being a lot better than its predecessor, which is what I think we're getting with season 2. And I do feel there's way more room for improvement to make a first season even better than this one. So let's hope that's the case for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, anything to add before we head off?
No, just good stuff. As I said, like, this is probably one of the better Star Wars stuff I've seen recently. I mean, I know you lot have been doing Mandalorian season 3. I've been watching it sporadically as you guys have been doing it, but if it wasn't for you guys doing it, I kind of would be falling off watching it, because it's just kind of lost the magic that it had, and I can't put on the figure of why that's it.
Well, regarding Mandalorian season 3, I just take it for like, okay, like some people are very critical regarding where the story is going to go and stuff like that, but I'm just sometimes happy just to watch an adventure of the week, whether it be them rescuing kids or them being sleuths on this planet with Lizzo and Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd. It's just nice just to spend some time with them, but I do understand people's gripes. I definitely do, because the last couple of episodes was phenomenal, of Mandalorian, but the whole season wasn't as good as that. I get it. I didn't really get it. So anyway, look, I'm falling asleep here. So let's wrap this up. We'll be back with more reviews here on the Tube of various stuff. I've got my Citadel review coming up soon, so check us out for that. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube. We are the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Thank you very much, Gary, and to everyone else out there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.